and you actually have the same master. And if you are deep enough in this web, then you can start to access what the projected future of this conspiracy is, and you can start to write novels that appear to be from imagination, but actually they're from knowledge of where the projected future is going. And when people like me have written books years and years ago, which about things that are now unfolding, it's really simple. If you can access the projected agenda and nothing comes to intervene in that projected agenda, then the projected agenda is going to happen, and therefore you predicted the future. But the idea is not to predict the future, it's to alert people so we head that future off. And that's what today's about, and that's what this section's about, because I'm relating it very much to today. That changed itself just by doing my shirt. That's a miracle. Of course, George Orwell and Aldous Huxley, 1984 and Brave New World, they knew each other. Huxley taught Orwell, real name Eric Blair, French at the elite Eton College, and they were friends, and they had access to this projected agenda. And I've been saying for a long time that Brave New World and 1984 were not from the imagination, not entirely anyway, they were from knowledge of the future. And that's why they've been so prophetic, so amazingly bloody accurate in terms of how things have unfolded. Now, one of the connections they had was into a secret society called the Fabian Society, which is behind things like the creation of the British Labour Party, also very active in Australia, and was behind the London School of Economics and all that. And the Fabian Society has a logo, a wolf in sheep's clothing, which actually gives it all away, really. It doesn't mean if you're in this Fabian Society, you're into the conspiracy, but the inner core knows what's bloody going on. And if you can get into that inner core, you can predict the future, and that's what those two did. Now, it wasn't just a story, 1984, it was knowledge of the future, and that future is now, and that's why so much is coming that he talked about. Now, I'm not going to go through all this, but I will pick ones out as I go through the various subjects. This is another example of this prior knowledge of this projected agenda. This is a guy called Dr. Richard Day. In 1969, he was a Rockefeller insider. He was involved, an executive of Planned Parenthood, which started out as a eugenics operation. I'll mention that as we go through, which again is connected in ways to the Fabian Society. And he stood up in 1969 to a conference of pediatricians in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He asked them to put down their recording equipment and not...
I just want to mention so many important items that were brought to the attention here. 1984, written by George Orwell. Brave New World, written by Aldous Huxley. The Fabian Society, introduction to secret societies that have inside information based on, certain criteria. If you're a psychopath, you get in. If you can rise to the top and prove that you have enough psychopathic tendencies, meaning you want to dominate and manipulate and take advantage of the masses, you will rise to the top and you will have access to this privileged information. And he talks about so many important things here. David Icke goes into so many incredible connections. And he talks about, of course, Planned Parenthood. He talks about, in that slide there, technology, which will be used to eventually diminish the role of humans, to dehumanize us. That's what you're seeing in all the Agenda 21, which is the whole green agenda. It's really an agenda to kill us off, to tax us more, to make us think we're a cancer on the planet. It's population reduction. And I mean, if you don't understand doublespeak, you've obviously never read George Orwell's 1984. You've never read Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. You don't know what the fuck's going on in the world. You think you know, but you don't know fuck all. So I'm going to let David Icke continue his brilliant speech.
Take notes, because he was going to tell him how the world was going to change. Why this guy did this night, no one seems to know, but he did. And one of the doctors did take notes and did some interviews later saying what this guy had said in 1969. What he said is the world that is unfolding and we're living in now. And he said it in 1969, which wasn't a kind of million years ahead of 1948 when 1984 came out. But I'll mention some of that as what he said, as I pick out different subjects as I go through. Now, what they are doing is manipulating us to either build or accept the building of our own prison and masquerade it as freedom or protecting us from terrorism and all that shite. And it's systematic. This is a guy called Edward Bernays, and he is known as the father of what we would call today spin, social engineering, manipulating perceptions. And he said, we are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of in almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking. We are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. In other words, understand how we create reality and interact with reality, and then download and program your version of reality that you want people to believe.
There you go. And he mentions Edward Bernays, author of Propaganda. You know, in just such a short amount of time, he's brought to light so many important pieces of information. So, if no one's ever seen this before, I really suggest you get your hands on a copy of 1984 Brave New World, and hopefully a seed was planted and you can start to understand that this knowledge is a cult. I mean, it's not a cult, it's out there, but you're going to encounter a lot of cognitive dissonance when you're first trying to read this information, because no one wants to believe that they've been lied to their whole life. No one wants to believe that they are in fact a mental slave. We all want to think we live in a beautiful free world where we make free, conscious, informed choices, but unfortunately that's not the case. So hope you guys got something out of this video, and we'll catch you next time.